Welcome to our Thursday morning trading room. Oop, almost forgot the screen share. Let's get the screen share going on here. Well, have you ever seen such a uncommitted market? Yesterday's trading, a perfect example of a sideways market. Look at here on the Eagle how it just shows the market condensing, just drifting sideways. Your trading band is twisting up like a rope. You need to be aware that days like this can happen. Obviously, they don't happen all the time, but when they do happen, you need to be aware that, hey, it's a possibility that the market is just not going anywhere today. Now, time will tell whether today is going to be one of those days. We are at the top of yesterday's trading range. And yesterday, I guess it was the first bearish close in, what, almost a week? We are opening today, it looks like, with a little bit of an opening gap. So this is going to be 3 gap days in a row that have not filled their opening range gaps. That is interesting just on its own. But I don't think there's any denying the neutrality of the market and how uncommitted traders are at the moment. Thanks, Steve. Steve says pending home sales at the top of the hour, even though it's not a huge report, may not put a big dent in the marketplace. The euro is falling off a little bit. Crude oil gapped lower this morning, but is dead sideways at the moment. Here's crude oil on the hawk. I don't know what it is about crude oil lately. They're doing all their trading in the overnight. They hit the North American session and just sideways. Although yesterday was a little bit more active with inventory, wasn't it? But here is crude oil from the open, and you can see we're just retracing our steps here between 48.50 and 48.70. Here's a little something for you to keep in mind. When you suspect the market is going sideways, something like 75 or 80% of all breakouts fail. So when you see the market break out, rather than assume it's going to head higher, especially if you're watching the market do this all day, right? It's just going sideways. So every time you see the market actually break out, rather than assume the breakout's going to stick, look for the failure. Look for the market to turn and reverse. Now, you may not have to wait for an actual raptor signal to develop. This is kind of, you know, Raptor 101 on steroids, but you could look for a breakout and then look for bearish bars to develop and then prices to head lower. And then you look for a breakout and then you look for a bullish bar to form. And then you look for a chance to buy it. Come on, get up there. There you go. And that kind of idea. Now, in a sideways market like that, I would not recommend going in for the full risk amount. However, to throw a single on there would not be, a bad course of action. You're going to want to be careful where you place your stops. You don't want to strangle your trade as usual. Right? So if here is your support, don't set up your trade. Oops, sorry. Don't set up your trade like this. As tempting as that is probably not going to work. See how the market hiccups just a little bit? That's, again, is not unusual. So, like I say, just a little something to keep in the back of your mind. You're not going to see me do it here in the trading room. In the trading room, I'm going to be sticking primarily to the signals themselves, but that is how the market works. Okay, so we're still bouncing around here a little. I think the other thing traders forget is how little the pros actually trade. You've heard me refer to that movie Enemy at the Gates with Jude Law. I really like that opening segment where he's a young boy and he's out there with his grandfather and they're hunting wolves, I think it is. Because the wolves are after their animals, so they gotta get rid of this wolf. And just the patience that's involved. If you haven't seen the movie, it's a good movie. It's getting to be an old movie now, but still a good movie. Based on a real person, which always makes a movie a little more interesting. But real, professional traders, we all have this mindset of, the trading pit and the traders just going crazy and, the HFT traders and the micro scalpers. And we all think that, we got to trade so much, so often, when really a sniper mentality is the way to go. A sniper, even though they shoot from a distance, they are very vulnerable. they're usually out there all by their lonesomes, right? And as a trader, it's not much different. You only have your capital to protect you. When that's gone, that's it. You're busted. So in much the same way, you don't want to be silly about trades that you take. You want to hold out for those best opportunities. Again, and I'm not going to beat the scenario to death, but like a sniper doesn't shoot at everything. A sniper makes the high probability shot. And so it should be with you as a trader. Okay, we're waffling here a little bit. Oh, putting in a little bit of a rally. Kind of testing yesterday's highs, and we'll see now whether the market is still considering to go sideways. If it's going to break out and reverse. No, there they go. Big push up. So we are looking a little bit more bullish today, no question. Yeah, okay. That's a good way to reverse the market, to say that we're bullish. Peter, excuse me. Peter watching heating oil. He says, hi Eric, I know it's thin, but heating oil has been moving the last few hours. I've never really paid much attention to heating oil. Heating oil is a good market in that it's pretty seasonal. The energy markets have a definite seasonal cycle to it, especially heating oil and natural gas. Crude oil, not so much. So here actually is our first in sync eagle signal right here near Friday's highs. So what I thought might happen is that we would see a test of the extreme and then the market reverse, but not yet. Okay, there's a definite pause.
Order pending.
And again, we are near near yesterday's highs, right? So we just broke out past the afternoon high. Here's kind of the noon hour high. I think the high of the morning was a little bit higher still. Yes, it was, just up here. Around, well, to be precise, 55.62.5. We're not there yet, but we've definitely tripped up a few of the intermediate highs, if you will. Peter's asking, Eric, what's your retest setting on your Raptor? So that would be down here with the, where it's marked SE. I have mine set at 1.25. The default 1.01. The nice thing about the new Raptor, of course, is that you can tweak to your particular market. You can adjust your settings. All right, not quite a test of the extreme yet. This current bar, really struggling though. Really struggling to break out of its own little trading range. You can see, well, it was trading right within the middle of itself. Oh, here we go. This may now be a test of the extreme, a very small and quick test of the extreme. As you can see, I've got a little bit of a selling slant to me today. I know, Tony. Tony says, how can you have a sell bias in such a strong uptrending market? And I probably shouldn't have said that. It's totally a personal bias. And these are the kinds of days that traditionally I tend to do rather poorly on, where I try to impose my own will upon the marketplace. Yeah, Peter says, doesn't work, Eric. Trying to impose your own will on the market. Yeah, doesn't work. So one of two things are likely to happen. I'll either get left out because the market will continue to rally, or I'll just suck up a couple of losses here, and that'll be that. You will have a tendency to do better as a trader if you're a more mechanical trader. And by that I mean you just trade what's on the chart. You don't think about it too much. You get a number one signal, you buy. You get a number two signal, you sell. In fact, one of our DTS Raptor owners had Profit Finder, and he was running through the Profit Finder, and he said, "Eric, what am I doing wrong? I'm producing all these losses. I can't get it to produce winning trades." And I ran the Profit Finder, and even without doing anything but just taking the signals, the printed signals, I turned a profit. So maybe, since everything is just so flat, dead, sideways, if you don't mind, I will just show you how that works. We'll keep an eye on the charts as well, but all right, so here's the NQ Raptor. Don't need the Geiger counter, don't need these. Let's put Profit Finder on here. So don't need that today. Don't need that. All right, so with the Profit Finder, I'm going to set this for Pacific time. And I'm going to stop taking signals about half hour before the close. It looks like we're going to challenge that 55.60 area, and maybe we'll see a breakout and reversal from there. But right now, the market's still plotting higher. Okay, so I need to turn off my arrows. So arrow location off. Now the Profit Finder is a great tool for optimizing your chart, your trades. Oops, sorry. Let's try data series. 10 days. Yeah, okay, 10 days is enough. So what you do now is you roll back to the very beginning of your chart, and you place, Profit Finder is going to make its calculations based on where the buy and sell arrows are. You'll notice I turned all the arrows off. You can get your buy and sell arrows right here. It's useful to remember the shortcut, Alt F2, Alt F3 to sell. So Alt F2, I put my buy arrow right there at the hash mark. Now I'm just going to go through this quickly. And, oops. Hopefully I'm not going to blow myself up with this, but so I'm just taking all the Raptor signals, whether it looks like they worked out or not. I'll take them all. This is a great tool for building confidence as well. Excuse me, as well as trying to figure out, you know, what's the best stop? What's the best profit target? It's not always what's the best signal. You know, what's the signal that's going to eliminate all my losing trades? That's not always the answer. Sometimes the answer is suffering through a few losing trades in order to capitalize on those bigger winners. And this will be a good test because, what, did we not get a signal the whole time through there? Well, apparently not. This will be a good test because the market has been just terrible sideways. Oops. Okay, so here we are. Very sideways, choppy kind of market. Okay, and now we'll run the Profit Finder and we'll see how we did. And so the Profit Finder says, okay. So even without tweaking anything, we have $185 in profit, which is essentially break even. We have $1,100 in profit. Here's the killer. This is what we got to work on, is we have $900 in losses, $920 in losses. So obviously our loss is a little bit too high. But this is, you know, unless I made a mistake in one of the signals, you can see, like for instance, here was a buy signal, but look, we got stopped out. Because right now, by default, Profit Finder is running a 10-tick stop. right? So obviously, this stop is a little bit too tight, so we got to work on that. Let's go now to our profit finder and let's start making a couple of changes. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the stop, the 10 tick stop. Let's try something a little bit different. Maybe we'll try an APR stop and we'll make it a little bit bigger. And when you're using Profit Finder, it's important that you only make changes incrementally. Don't make a bunch of changes at once. You won't know what's going on. Okay, we're doing a little better. Our profit up to almost $300 now. Again, nothing to get too excited about. That's more or less break even. But look at our gross profit, $1,400. Gross loss still a little bit big. So again, you can take a look at your trades and you can see, would a larger stop have worked better for me? No, it looks like the stop is pretty good. But now my profit target is getting in the way a little bit. So back to Profit Finder we go. And you can also set your initial contract. So let's say we're going to have a max position of 2, but sometimes there's follow-up signals, right? Sometimes the signals, you saw it, they produce one signal, and then 10 minutes later there's another signal, and 10 minutes after that there's another signal. So let's say we're only going to trade singles, and we're going to cap our position at two contracts. And let's say we're going to take half our position at target 1. Let's see how that works. All right, we're doing a little better. Loss is still a little bit large. Still taking a pretty big chunk out of our trading. Look at our win rate though. This is why you have to be suspicious of those things where those emails that boast of these huge win rates. We've got an 81% win rate, but we're still incurring a lot of losses. All right, so why is that? Okay, so it looks like our profit target's doing pretty well. Let's try maybe implementing a break even, see if that doesn't curb some of our losses. Break even, here we go. So let's say we're going to save 1 tick and we're going to roll to break even at 10 ticks, which is our first target. Did not seem to do too much for us. Let's try that again. Let's have a slightly faster break even. Let's see what happens when we roll to break even at 5 ticks. Oh, look at that. Actually killed a lot of our winning trades, that quick break even stop. So the fear of losing money actually ended up costing us money. Where'd you go, break even? There you are. All right, let's reverse it. Let's put in a larger break even. So this is the great thing about Profit Finder, of course, is it's almost like the trader's version of a video game. You get to play with it, and you get to see how you can optimize your system to make more money. I still don't like those big losses on there, but let's see what happens if we reach a little further. Instead of a 10-tick target, let's try for a 15-tick profit and see what that does for us. Nope. So immediately we know by reaching a little bit further, we start to incur a few more losses. So the last couple of weeks, a scalp target has been the way to go. Who knew? And you can set different targets as well. You can set ATR targets or percent targets. All right, so what if we go all in, all out? What if we try to snag an extra 5 ticks instead of having a runner in play? No, we're still kind of stuck. The same trades, what we're doing is not affecting the performance of our trades. All right, let's try adjusting that. What else can we play with here? It looks like our stops are going to be the secret to doing a little bit better here. All right, let's try a swing strategy. Let's see what that does. Nope. Swing strategy, essentially break even. So what's interesting is the trade manager here is really driving home what a difficult last couple of weeks trading has been. I'm going to go back to the ATR because that was a little bit more effective and just see about no, still same results. Okay, well, I'm not going to take up the rest of the session here doing this, but you get the idea. Right, you get the idea that you can play with your trade manager and actually get you into a position where you can optimize your trades. The other thing you can do, of course, is you can go through your chart now and you can look at your trades and you can say, all right, so here was obviously a signal that did not work out. What could I have done better? What could I have done better here? Well, maybe I could have, even though technically it was a cloud crossover, maybe I could have waited for the cloud crossover to look more like the cloud crossover is supposed to look and allow the market to retreat into the cloud and then have the cloud push it out. So maybe you could say, all right, if I'm going to do that, then I'm going to cycle through my trades because there's only 10 days. And you can look at your cloud crossover signals. Okay, cloud crossover comes into the cloud, comes out. Okay, so there's a signal. And there's got to be a way that I need to capitalize on moves like this. So that's another thing. I need to be able to capitalize on some runners. We'll worry about the number 3 signals later. Let's just do the number 1 signals right now. All right, here's the number one signal, comes into the cloud, comes out. Okay, good. Here's a number one signal printed right here, comes into the cloud, comes out. Okay, that's one I would take, and so on. So you go through your chart this way, and you try to optimize your signal in your mind as well, right, to give you confidence. So let's see, even just making that one change. Even making that one change has boosted our profitability. And that is the Profit Finder. But what's interesting is that, you know, even if you just blindly take the signals, and you know, if you're like me, you look at this and you say, how can this possibly go higher? How can this possibly go higher? Well, it did, right? All the elements were there. And that's one thing I like about the Profit Finder, is it kind of gives you the answers to those questions. Steve says, totally changing subjects. Can you explain a Falcon trendline touch, as I think there have been 4 of them and I would never take them? Well, you're not really changing the subject, Steve. It's all a part of the deal here. Okay, the trendline touch is a continuation signal for the Falcon. Generally speaking, it occurs when the market hits the trend line, obviously, and continues on. Now, I don't normally consider these signals trend line touch signals. However, these, where the market actually comes in and hits the trend line and then comes out with a continuation signal, that's what I look at as a trend line touch. And like I say, it's basically a continuation signal. If you were watching it, say, on a 1 minute chart, I'm not sure what it would look like on a 5 minute chart, but if you were watching a 1 minute or a 3 minute chart, or even here on the Falcon, it has that distinctive bear flag shape to it. So it's really what it is. It's the Falcon terminology for a bear flag. The Falcon, of course, it doesn't print the high probability signals the way the Raptor does, but the Profit Finder would be a good tool to analyze your trendline touches. And what you would do is, once again, you would just turn your arrows off, you would go through your charts, and no cheating, you would go through bar by bar, and you would look at your signals, and you would say, okay, is that a signal I would take? No, it doesn't meet my criteria. Okay, next signal. See, this is why you need to turn your arrows off, because your arrows print early. And then you would look and say, is that a signal? No. So you keep looking, and is that a signal? Yeah, okay, there's a trend change signal. Does it fill? No. Here's a trend change signal higher and a late filter entry. Does it fill? Yes. Okay, so that's where you would put your buy arrow, and you would run your Profit Finder accordingly. And then you could follow through on all these signals, and at the end of the day, you could say, oh, okay, I would have made X amount of dollars, I would have lost X amount of dollars. How can I improve? What can I do here to make it more effective? And you can see it's not always on the signal. Even though, we all take some sucky signals, it's not always on the signal. Very often, it requires you to optimize your stop loss, or your profit objective, or your break even, stuff like that there. Okay, so what's interesting is we've now broken yesterday's high. What did I say it was? 55.63, and it looks like we've traded yeah, 55.62 half, and we've traded 55.66 right into the next resistance zone. And it looks like, this breakout may also fail. Yes, Steve. Steve says, so we're looking at a trend line touch, a possible trend line touch. Yes, sir. We're into the trend line. We'll see if it comes out now and produces a buy signal. It's going to be a little bit more aggressive selling now that we've reached Wednesday's high. And here on the Raptor, if we got a bull bar and then started to produce some bear bars, that would almost be enough to convince me that a top is in. Steve asks, in fairness, we were only one tick off the touch, so I was thinking that was close enough. In a strong trend, yes. If you're going to be technical, you want it to actually get into that trend line. But yeah, no, you're right. It is only a tick off, and you can see the results were fine. What you want is that bull flag type flavor to it. That'll give you a little bit more confidence. So Tony says, compared to the week already gone by, the ATR is positive for the first time this early. All right, there's that bull bar I was looking for. That may be a very teeny tiny test of the extreme. May not be enough to actually produce a signal, but it's interesting. Breaking yesterday's high, now all of a sudden it seems like they are more interested in selling. I gotta stop talking. Every time I say the word selling, the market makes an uptick. By that logic, if I say buy, the market should move lower. Tony says, no problem. He says, many of us are long. Good for you. Good for you if you took that early signal. Let's see, did that eagle signal? Oh yes, the eagle signal. First eagle signal du jour. Looks like it hit its high probability target as well. Look at that, right on the bean. What, is that all I'm going to get for a retest? Alright, possible late filter entry. The macro pullback here has tripped. I'm looking for a test of the extreme and a failure. Yes, I know, I know. Like I said, I'm either going to end up missing out on the day or I'm going to crash and burn. Well, not crash and burn, but take a losing trade. All right, starting to actually resemble a test of the extreme. And I don't know, if the high holds, then we should get our reversal signal, our number 2 soft edge sell, and that might see the market tail off this morning. Now, it has been an hour since the open, so traditionally this is the time where the market will back up on itself, if in fact it is going to. Or maybe it's just looking for a reason to sucker in a bunch of sellers. All right, so like I say, a little bit of a conflict here now. I am concerned about the market breaking the highs from yesterday. Traditionally, breakouts fail. This may well turn into a little bit of a double top. We did get a late filter entry, however, which is a pretty strong buy signal. Okay, we're getting a little warmer. So we've got the test of the extreme, and looking for a possible sell signal to develop now. Essentially, double top, if you will. That's what all tests of the extreme are, I suppose. At their core, they're either a double top or double bottom. Smart man, Tony. Tony says, even though we've been in trend, I've been scalping. I think that's pretty smart. What Tony is referring to here is the trade forecaster saying that we are in trend mode, but just given the nature of the market the last couple of weeks, it might be the thing to do. Peter asking, Eric, do you know if the NinjaTrader 8 versions will be Bloodhound compatible? No. Adam would be the guy to ask. He's a little bit more familiar with Bloodhound than what I am. If anyone has questions related to Ninja 8 or the software, Adam's your man. All right. The buyer's just not going away. Crude oil price is taking a bit of a tumble. Crude oil has been so slow lately that I've actually moved crude oil now onto my faster settings. just to try to get some signals. Bear with me here a moment, and I will. So the alternate settings for the Raptor are the 446 settings. So we're going to run a 4-tick brick, and we're going to adjust our clouds to 6 and 4, and our hawk brick size is going to be sped up as well. And what that does is it's going to introduce a few more signals. Now, you know, more is not always better. Sometimes less is more, but crude oil has just been so quiet that I thought, all right, let's try it on the faster setting, and it does loosen the market up a little bit. It does give you a couple more opportunities. But right now, crude in a little bit of a tailspin. Yeah, Peter says that's one of the reasons I'm following heating oil. If things don't shape up here for crude soon, I might be looking to replace it with something. The primary reason I follow crude oil is just the interest of it. So many people in the room want me to follow crude oil. All right, here comes our test of the extreme. Come on, give me my short signal. There it is. Okay, I'm just going to have to punch in with a sell order because it unfolded rather quickly there. And I might try to run this out. I know, I should just take my profit when I have it. Doggone it, Eric. And the way the market is, I think I'm going to go with a more aggressive stop strategy. So we've been waiting for this one long enough. Hi, really? Come on. There we go, come on. Thanks, Peter. Peter says, running into the support and resistance, it's an amazing indicator. Yes, it is. I am very pleased with how that worked out. And I'm thrilled that so many people find it useful as well. Oh, man, they're killing me here. I'd like to get just a little bit more room here before I start thinking about rolling stops. But I do not want to see this market peel against me. Okay, I'm going to chicken out, stops to break even, and no. Been waiting all morning for this, and now you're going to do this to me? You stinkers. This is what in trading circles is known as a dilemma. And it's always the challenge when you're trading a single contract, how to manage this trade. Hard edge is our target, and I don't know, maybe I should just look at taking profit on target. That gap keeps calling to me. Don't you hear it? All right, darn gap. That gap way down here. it's the gap that keeps calling to me, and that's just today. Yesterday had a larger gap, and the day before had a ginormous gap below it. And none of those are filled yet. Now, I don't expect, the gap from the beginning of the week to fill today. However, filling today's gap, or even getting close to today's gap, that is a definite possibility. In fact, I'm not going to be greedy. A retest of today's lows would probably suffice for me. Now here comes that little bit of a hiccup that I was dreading. The seller's got to get busy early here, or I'm going to end up with a break-even stop out. Thanks, Tony. Tony says, good for you, Eric. You knew what you were waiting for. Kudos. It's, again, like I said, it's when you see the market breach a significant high or low, and sometimes this is easier to see on a time-based chart. Not always, but here, let me just show you. Why don't I show you? And we'll take a look at, I don't know, let's take a look at crude oil, and we'll do a daily, oops, wrong button. Okay, so could be any chart, happens to be crude oil. And whenever you see a significant high or low breached, and significant, I mean obvious, here's a breach. And look at what's been happening before here. The market is just kind of dead, right? It's dead flat sideways. So here's a breach of support, market goes up. Never manages to breach the resistance. Here, serious downtrend. Here is support. It gets breached. What happens? You get a big reversal. Now, this reaction was a long time coming, but look at what happened when it did occur. Boom. So something to bear in mind. Even here, when the market breached this support, again, a long time coming, you had to wait 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2 weeks. 2 weeks for the reaction, but look at what happened when you got it. And then you wait another 2 weeks and look at what happens. So you take 2 trades a month. Do you have the patience to do that? The beauty of both these trades is that they were extremely low risk. You could take this trade and do an entry here, a stop down there. Oh, let's click targets so that we see. Do a frickin' record. All right, let's do it like this. Stop it. Okay, and let's say you got reversed there. That is, I know it's hard for you to read, $4,850. Not bad, not bad. That'll pay a few bills. And then the other reverse, currently we're down to here, so let's do it off the high. Another $4,500. Now, they're not all gravy trades like that, obviously. This one was much smaller. So there's your buy-in. There's your, and you probably got stopped right there. $500 trade. But you didn't have to wait 1, 2, 3, 4, about a week. All right, looks like I got tapped on the break-even reversal, but I don't know. The sellers, they showed up, weren't able to do much, and now the buyers coming back to, well, at the very least, retest the highs, where we know the sellers are hanging out. All right, boys and girls, we're going to wrap up shop here for today, and we'll get back tomorrow and do it all over again. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning. Bye for now. Oh, sorry. I didn't realize I just coughed in your ear.